What happens when the President of the United States chooses one of America's most politically symbolic retirement communities for his first major public appearance after a foiled assassination attempt? Not New York, not Washington, not a swing state factory town. Instead, Donald Trump headed to the Villages, Florida, a vast retirement mega-community long known as a conservative stronghold, where golf carts are everywhere, political passion runs deep, and even casual social life has reportedly become divided along partisan lines. On the surface, this was a campaign-style stop focused on taxes, seniors, and Social Security. But underneath, this visit was about much more: security, symbolism, the midterm battlefield, and the state of America's political culture in 2026. This is the story of why Trump's appearance in the Villages matters, not just for Florida, not just for Republicans, but for understanding the mood of the United States right now. Why this visit matters. On paper, the event looked straightforward. Trump was scheduled to speak at the Villages Charter School in Sumterville at around 3 p.m., with doors opening earlier in the day. Supporters were told to RSVP online, receive a QR code, and pass through TSA-style screening, while local officials warned of traffic delays, strict security checks, and limited parking. The message of the event was also clear. Trump planned to emphasize senior-focused economic themes, including tax relief and measures framed around putting seniors and workers first. But timing is everything in politics. This wasn't just another Florida stop. Reuters described it as Trump's first public event since a foiled assassination attempt, a moment that immediately transformed a routine political appearance into a test of public confidence, presidential security, and political resilience. That alone gave the visit national significance. The president was stepping back into a public crowd setting under intense scrutiny, after questions were raised about how close an alleged attacker had come to a recent Washington event attended by Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and cabinet members. And then there's the location. The Villages is not just another town in Florida. It is one of the largest retirement communities in the United States, spanning multiple counties and home to tens of thousands of residents over 55. Politically, it carries outsized meaning. It has long been seen as Republican-friendly terrain, the kind of place where turnout, symbolism, and cultural identity all matter. So when Trump reemerged here, it sent a message. If you want to rally older conservative voters, reassure your political base, and show that you remain defiant under pressure, this is exactly the kind of place you choose. A carefully chosen audience. Trump's message to the Villages was not random. Reports ahead of the speech said he was expected to focus on issues with obvious appeal to older Americans: tax breaks for seniors, discussion of Social Security, and improvements to Social Security Administration access and wait times. Bay News 9 reported that the administration also wanted to talk about a senior bonus deduction signed into law the previous summer, with more than 30 million older Americans said to have claimed the deduction by tax day and an average deduction reportedly above $7,500. That is the kind of targeted kitchen table message designed for retirees paying close attention to their finances. Other local coverage echoed that framing. Wesh said Trump was expected to discuss no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security, and policies that put seniors and workers first. But one local report also added a note of caution. The big, beautiful bill being promoted in Republican messaging did not fully eliminate taxes on Social Security, though it did provide a tax break for seniors. That distinction matters because it shows how campaign rhetoric, legislative branding, and actual policy details can diverge, especially when candidates are speaking to highly motivated audiences. In other words, this rally was built around a simple political equation. Trump needed a stage where his economic pitch would resonate emotionally and immediately. The Villages offered exactly that: a concentrated population of older voters, many living on fixed incomes, highly sensitive to taxes, healthcare costs, inflation, and retirement security. If the goal was to present himself as the defender of senior pocketbooks while also projecting strength after a security scare, this audience was ideal. The political pressure surrounding Trump. What makes this stop even more significant is the pressure Trump was reportedly under when he made it. Reuters said his approval rating had fallen to 34% in its polling, with more than 6 in 10 voters disapproving of his performance. The report tied that decline to broader economic dissatisfaction, including inflation and rising gasoline prices, and suggested Republican candidates were facing political headwinds ahead of the midterms. In that context, the rally in the Villages was not merely an appearance before friendly voters. It was part of a larger attempt to shore up political support at a moment when the national picture looked difficult. That helps explain why Florida mattered so much on this day. According to the News Journal, Trump's Florida schedule did not end in the Villages. After the speech, he was expected to travel to West Palm Beach for an evening event hosted by the Forum Club of the Palm Beaches, and then remain in Florida through the weekend, with FAA flight restrictions indicating time in Palm Beach and later Miami, where Trump National Doral was hosting the PGA Tour's Cadillac Championship. This was a full political weekend in Trump's home state, combining voter messaging, elite networking, and visibility at his own property ecosystem. So the Villages stop has to be seen in a wider frame. This was not just about retirees in Central Florida. It was about a president navigating a tense moment, lower approval, economic frustration, midterm anxieties, and heightened security concerns after a close call. In that situation, appearing before a loyal, enthusiastic crowd in a Republican bastion is more than convenient. It is a strategic reset, a visual statement that the political base is still there, still energized, and still willing to turn out. Security became part of the story. Before Trump even arrived, security had already become central to the narrative. Local outlets described an event wrapped in restrictions: no bags, TSA-style screening, extensive prohibited item lists, limited access roads, and official warnings telling non-attendees to avoid the area entirely. Doors opened hours before the speech, but a QR code did not guarantee entry once capacity was reached. Even the physical geography around the school was being transformed by road closures and security perimeters. One especially striking element came from a retired diplomatic security agent interviewed by Spectrum News. He said that after the most recent assassination attempt, authorities would likely expand the concentric rings of security that typically surround presidential visits. He also pointed out that the event being indoors made the Secret Service much happier. That line matters because it shows how presidential movement is never just political theater. It is operational theater. Every venue choice, every checkpoint, every traffic diversion reflects a new layer of risk calculation. Reuters reinforced that theme from the national level. It said security measures would be heavily scrutinized during the Florida trip because of the recent foiled attack, and noted Trump had publicly said he still retained confidence in the Secret Service and would not consider wearing a bulletproof vest. Whether supporters saw that as confidence or critics saw it as bravado, the effect was the same. Security itself became part of the political imagery. Trump was not just addressing voters. He was demonstrating that he was willing to step back into the arena. Supporters were ready long before the speech. If the White House wanted visuals of enthusiasm, the Villages delivered them. Local and regional reporting described supporters lining up early in the morning, while a photo gallery from the Ledger showed that some had reportedly begun waiting 24 hours in advance, with lines forming as early as 3 p.m. the previous day. That kind of pre-event dedication is the kind of visual political media loves. Long queues, bright signs, patriotic clothing, anticipation, and a crowd eager to be seen as much as to see the president. The imagery from the Ledger adds texture to the moment. It captured not only older supporters waiting in line, but also high school students who reportedly got the day off and came out early, plus pre-speech entertainment, including a performance of YMCA. That detail is small, but useful in a video script because it tells viewers this was not a dry policy forum. It had the emotional and cultural language of a rally: music, anticipation, spectacle, and community ritual. Wesh also reported that students at the campus described it as exciting to host the commander-in-chief, while residents were already gathering in the secure holding area before noon. The event, in other words, blended three worlds at once: a presidential appearance, a partisan rally, and a local civic spectacle. That combination is part of why such events matter beyond what is actually said from the podium. They create atmosphere. They create images. And in modern politics, images often travel further than speeches. But the other side was mobilizing too. Yet this was not a one-sided story. As supporters prepared to welcome Trump, opponents were preparing to protest him. Spectrum's reporting highlighted a collaboration between groups, including Villagers for Democracy and the Democratic Club of the Villages, who planned a golf cart rally roughly 3/4 of a mile away from the school, close enough to be visible, but far enough away to reduce the chance of confrontation. That distance is meaningful. It captures the political mood inside the villages itself. According to Wesh, Democrats intentionally planned their protest about a mile away, saying they wanted Republicans to have their space while also keeping their own members safe and avoiding heckling or confrontation. Even the geography of dissent had become cautious and negotiated. The quotes from both sides tell the deeper story. Trump supporters in Spectrum's report said the visit was positive, energetic, and focused on policies that matter to retirees, especially taxes and prescription drug costs. Opponents, meanwhile, argued that Trump's actions were more self-serving than nationally beneficial and said they had been organizing against him for years, despite being in the minority within this community. What you see here is not just disagreement. It is a long-running political coexistence under strain. The Villages is changing, and that may be the biggest story. This is where the BBC's reporting becomes especially valuable. It did not just cover the rally logistics. It zoomed out and asked what the Villages says about America itself. The article described the community as a kind of retiree utopia, sprawling, active, highly social, packed with clubs and recreational spaces, but also as a place where political polarization has become impossible to ignore. Residents told the BBC that politics now affects friendships, club membership, neighborhood relations, and even which people choose to play pickleball or golf together. That is an extraordinary detail. One resident said she began a Democratic pickleball game because politics had become too tense. Her husband reportedly started a Democratic golf group because some people felt uncomfortable with the right-leaning politics they encountered on the course. Another resident said that where politics used to feel almost absent, Trump's rise changed the emotional temperature of the place. And perhaps most strikingly, another described the Villages as a microcosm of the country. That may be the most important line in this entire story. And that is why Trump's visit matters beyond policy. It landed in a place where politics isn't just debated, it is lived. A place where support for Trump remains powerful, but where resistance to Trump is also becoming more organized, more visible, and more willing to take up public space. This is not just a rally in a friendly crowd. It is a rally in a symbolic landscape where the national divide is now on display in miniature. Why Florida is still central to Trump's political identity. In the end, Trump's appearance in the Villages was about far more than one afternoon rally. It was about symbolism after danger. It was about testing political strength under pressure. It was about returning to a loyal audience at a time of economic discontent and falling approval. And maybe most importantly, it was about appearing in a community that reflects a larger American truth. Even in places built for comfort, leisure, and retirement, politics now reaches into nearly everything. The Villages has often been portrayed as a safe Republican haven, a place of golf carts, flags, clubs, and conservative energy. But these reports show something more complicated. Yes, Trump's supporters remain deeply enthusiastic. Yes, the president chose a location that clearly suits his political instincts. But this is also now a place of organized protest, cautious social boundaries, and visible ideological fracture. In that sense, the Villages may be one of the clearest snapshots of America in 2026, prosperous in parts, anxious underneath, deeply divided, and intensely political even in the spaces where people once came to escape politics altogether. And that may be the real story here. Not just that Trump came to the Villages, but that in coming there, he stepped onto a stage where modern America, in all its tension and contradiction, was already waiting for him.